Design is everywhere, and we will discover the design destinations as you've never seen them before. The key places of design in the new series, Design Districts. From breathtaking skyscrapers designed by internationally acclaimed archistars, like the Shard by Renzo Piano, to the most Instagrammable restaurants, like Sketch with its pink interiors curated by India Madhavi, to the iconic underground tube stations, London has so many spots for design lovers. The New York Times calls it the design capital of the world, a vibrant and energetic metropolis that is at the forefront of modern art, architecture, and design trends, with a magnetic appeal for thousands of international creatives. Designers move from all over the world to live here, home to the most innovators on the planet and more artists than anywhere else in Europe, like the biggest architectural firms such as Zaha Hadid, Foster & Partner, David Adjaye, Thomas Heatherwick, designers like Michael Anastasiadis, Jasper Morrison, Edward Barber and Jay Osgerby, Doshi Levine, just to name a few. If you're heading to this brilliant city, don't miss our design hangout recommendations.
London's design community has grown over a long period of time. You know, it's one of the most mature design scenes in cities across the world. What we've benefited from is what I describe as breadth and depth. And what that means is there's a wide array of different design disciplines all working together. And there's a very broad range of businesses and individuals working at every scale. This has taken a long time to develop. I mean, we're talking 50 plus years. But we've seen it grow hugely in the last 10 or 20 years. Well, I think London is an attractive place for creativity, again, through a long development over history. You can almost go back to the swinging 60s and the very famous Time magazine cover, which coined the phrase swing in London. So what you get is an amazing mixture of different creative disciplines. You get music, you get fashion, you get art, you get design, and they're all combining together in a kind of quite a unique way. The other thing I think that's happened is we've benefited from having very famous art and design schools. And some of the names that you mentioned all came to London to be educated. So we've been a magnet for ambitious young designers who want to come and get the best design education. And I'm pleased to say many of them have chosen to stay and live and work in the city. And we've enjoyed that over decades. So the community has just grown and grown and grown and become quite special and unique. I mean, now 1 in 6 of every job in London is in the creative economy. And of course, design is a very important part of that.
Our tour can definitely start from Kensington's Cultural Quarter, an elegant area that houses the most important and historic museums, like the Victoria Albert Museum, which started out in the 19th century as the world's first design museum. London Design Museum, the temple for design hunters, founded by Sir Terence Conran in 1989, originally on the River Thames near Tower Bridge, and in 2016 relocated to Kensington High Street in an architectural building reimagined by John Pawson.
So, what is the Design Museum for and who does it reach? We like to say that the mission of the Design Museum is to make the impact of design visible. And we do that through exploring a range of different ideas and fields, because design is a huge field spanning from, fashion at one end to urbanism at the other, and with a lot of variety in between. And we aim to speak to the largest possible audience. And we opened in our current building, which is the former Commonwealth Institute, in 2016, so nearly 4 years ago. And it was redesigned by John Pawson and OMA, and it's a big but welcoming space where a lot of people come who, some of them are designers themselves or design experts, but a lot of people have never really thought about design in a serious way before. We do have a very diverse program, as you suggest, and we're trying to reach, as I said earlier, the largest possible audience to make design relevant to their lives, to connect to their interests and passions, and to connect to the way that the world is changing. The way I like to think about the program that we put out is in different strands, because we're trying to reach different kinds of audience. As I said, professional designers, but also people who've never thought about design before. So I would say one of the main strands is expanding the audience for design. And you mentioned a few exhibitions, you know, Ferrari, electronic music, Stanley Kubrick. So one way to connect design to people's lives is to choose these big topics that they are definitely interested in, and then to explain how important design is in those stories, whether it's the importance of the work of designers and architects in Stanley Kubrick's work and the way that they helped him create his vision. That's how we make the design aspect of that story relevant to people. And then another strand would be design in a changing world. So the way that design is responding to different current affairs or social issues or environmental issues. So we've done all kinds of exhibitions. We did one on graphic design and politics. We're developing an exhibition about design and waste. And so we really want to reflect the way that design is responding to current challenges, burning issues. And then another thing that we try to do is we try to represent the way that discipline itself is changing and the way that designers practice. So design is a practice, the way designers think, the way the discipline is evolving. And we do that in a number of different ways in many different kinds of exhibition and in talks and lectures and workshops. And it is true that design is really changing, and the way that people practice design and the way they understand what design is really changing. And so the museum needs to keep up with that and also challenge the profession.
From the Design Museum, you will spend about 20 minutes on foot to get to Kensington Gardens, surrounded by the beautiful Hyde Park, where there are the Serpentine Galleries, a museum that celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, led by Hans-Ulrich Obrist, artistic director and design talent scout, presenting as always pioneering exhibitions, like the current one, Cambio, with the Italian duo Forma Fantasma. The virtual tour goes on across the design districts. London has 11 design districts, active all year round, but more lively during the London Design Festival, an annual unmissable event launched by Sir John Sorrell and Ben Evans in 2003, a kermesse that every September attracts thousands of architects, designers, and students, or simply the curious, to dance to the rhythm of creativity.
The reason we have different design districts in London is it's a very big city geographically. And what we want to try and help is design audiences to see as much content as possible. And the best way to do that is to have clusters of concentrations of activity in different parts of the city. Remember, also London grew up as a city of villages that slowly came together over a period of hundreds of years. But that's why we think the different design districts have different personalities to them. So one of the oldest ones that we have is Shoreditch, which is just near the financial district and near the eastern part of London, which has had a very big and successful growth in creativity in the last 20 years or so. This type of stuff that you see there is very different from what you might see in Brompton, which is in South Kensington area, which is much, much more European. For example, many of the big Italian design brands have their showrooms there. And, so there's real differences between the different districts and their personalities. You mentioned King's Cross. King's Cross is the biggest redevelopment site in London for many, many years. And it's already attracted a number of big brands. So, for example, Tom Dixon has set up his new studio there. But they have, and the art school is there. Central St. Martin's is based in that location as well. But the best thing about that area is that the developer, the owner of the area, is very pro-design. So has encouraged a lot of activities, and we do installations there each year. There is a new one, we think, this year, which will be in Walthamstow. I don't know if you know where Walthamstow is, but it's on the edge of London. It's the last stop on the underground tube line, and in North London. And I think that one will be a little bit more craft orientated in its field. So very, very kind of local in its activity, because there's quite a lot of designer makers in the area. So you get one which is about Shoreditch, which is about kind of leading designers. So for example, Jasper Morrison is based there. You get the ones which is the bigger furniture brands, and then you get the ones which are about designer makers and more craft people.
From the historical Clerkenwell Design Quarter, home to some of the most influential contemporary architectural firms and studios, to the glamorous Chelsea Design District, to Brompton Design District, the first London Design Festival Design District, with its distinctive showrooms like B&B Italia, Molteni and Company, Cassina, Cartel, Boffi, Meridiani, and the Conran Shop, a place synonymous with design, with brands like Capellini, Floss, Fornasetti, Lema, and many more. Definitely to be mentioned, King's Cross Design District, London's newest creative quarter and retail destination, with emerging design brands and established studios like Tom Dixon. And also Mayfair Design District, the leading design district for contemporary and collectible design that attracts millions of visitors for its luxury shops, art, and design galleries like Galerie Creo, Galerie Patrick Seguin, and Carpenter's Workshop Gallery.
So how are the next generation of designers evolving? Well, we have an annual program called Designers in Residence, and every year we invite 4 young emerging designers to spend time at the museum and to develop a project. And it's a great program. It's been running for more than a decade. And we're just finishing this year's program, and we had 4 designers who were looking at new materials, from salt to fat to graphene. And we've just enrolled 4 new designers for next year's program, and they're working on the theme of care, which is highly topical, but something that we actually thought about before we actually brought in before the COVID crisis. And they're looking at a range of projects from, one of them is looking at the question of empathy. One of them is looking at working with the Black community in Britain and working on mental health issues. One of them is working on fashion design and trying to incorporate the stories of Nigerian migrants into their clothing. And one of them is talking about is researching architecture and the biome, so bacteria. It's an incredible range of projects, and I think it really reflects the way that young designers today want to challenge the discipline, push at its edges, and explore what design can do with new conditions. So how is London changing, and do we have a vision? I think that's an interesting question. It's been a turbulent time for this city. We've just lived through 3 years of prolonged Brexit negotiations, which haven't brought a great deal of clarity. We are going through an extraordinary crisis, as most cities are, with the pandemic, but London has not maybe handled it brilliantly. Well, I wouldn't say London, I would say it's a national issue. And now when we get through this, we'll have to be dealing with Brexit again. So yeah, it's been a precarious time, and it remains a precarious time. The culture sector is in crisis, effectively. I mean, especially theatres, but also museums, and every business really is hurting. So we're going to have to, everyone is knuckling down to try and survive this period, really, and then hopefully from next year onwards start to really spread our wings again. But I mean, I think it's a good question, and I think, at the city level, we need to seize some of the opportunities that this crisis has thrown up, and I would say that involves, for instance, in London, making cycling much easier and trying to reduce air pollution and things like that. But at the cultural level, we're going to have to really rethink a number of things, the way that lots of different museums operate, and try and perhaps try and rethink how we do things.
How is it going to change and evolve? Well, I'm a bit more worried about that because of Brexit. We've made, in my view, the crazy decision to cut ourselves off from Europe. It will mean that it's not as easy to move to London to live and work. And I think I mentioned the art and design schools, and they're all very concerned as well, because it will become much more expensive if you're Italian or you're French or you're German to decide to have your education in London, which I think will put off a lot of people, and other cities in Europe will benefit as a result of that. So I think we have to work very, very hard to maintain our position as a kind of creative capital, and promotional activities like the Design Festival are a very, very important part of that, which is why we work closely with the Mayor's office to try and tell this story. And the Mayor has coined a phrase about London is open, and we want that message to go out very strongly to other parts of the world.
In London, you can find design everywhere. From Stella McCartney's old Bond Street flagship store, a Grade 2 listed 18th century building furnished with a pink version of a Camaleonda sofa by Mario Bellini for B&B Italia, to the Louis Vuitton renewed store in New Bond Street, reimagined by the genius of the American architect Peter Marino, a must-visit place that features design products such as cocoon-like pods designed by the Campana brothers that descend from the ceiling, alongside masterpieces by Gaetano Pesce, Angelo Mangiarotti, and Charlotte Perriand. If you want to do high-quality shopping, don't miss Harrods, the world's most renowned luxury emporium with a design department and an interior design service with a focus on bespoke personalization. A wonderland for the design addicted, offering styling solutions for any space. And Design Centre at Chelsea Harbour, home to 120 showrooms and over 600 of the world's most prestigious brands, the largest of its kind in Europe.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. Our main services, obviously we're committed to creating this wonderful design destination that's inspiring and informing, and in creating a place that concentrates totally on craftsmanship and quality. So to do that, we've created services to enable all the top designers to come and source, and that's either a design club, so they can come and bring their clients, or they can source and use the facilities in a very private sort of club member, in a very private club membership kind of way, and it's very discreet and comfortable. But if they're based overseas and have difficulty sending their teams to source, we do have a designer sourcing service. So therefore, we can then collect samples, we can send ideas over to them, and we can do it remotely. And that's obviously been very helpful during the lockdown. We also have our personal shopping service for the brand-aware, discerning consumer who actually is very confident with their design vision and need help in administration partially on collating all the things for their their villa or their ski chalet or their houses or whatever. So so we're very versatile, and we can help yacht designers, residential designers, contract designers. Well, the sort of the target of the clients, I think, is to be able to come and source from a place that is a one-stop shop, and they can have the very, very best selection. So what's quite interesting is we have designers who are based in Paris who would or anywhere in Europe or whatever, who find it easier to put their teams up in the hotel on site, because there's a hotel within the whole Chelsea Harbour area, and then they source for 2 days for their project and they go back. It's easier to do that than domestically staying in their cities, because it's, you know, with traveling and everything else between the various showrooms. So so I think that the target is to create a comprehensive mix, but also I think to kind of create for them a place where they can meet the new demands for their clients. And I think there's a lot of bespoke work that goes on. So whether it's a yacht designer, or whether it's hotel or residential, there's or even a restaurant, a bar, or a retail outlet, it's things are bespokely created here, which is very, very exciting. And we sort of celebrate craftsmanship and skill very very much with the talents that we have under our domes and our in Design Centre East. So I think it's basically, we're sort of committed to keeping that sort of supply chain going, and in creating an engaging environment for people to be able to fulfill their sourcing needs. I would say it's a nerve centre. It's the nerve centre of international design.
Well, I think London, in terms of its design creativity, has a unique blend of talent. And we're very proud of the fact that this talent comes from every country in the world. The internationalism of London is, I think, one of its great assets, and long may that continue.
For me, it's one word's always difficult. 2 words I could probably do. I'd like to say vibrant and inclusive.